Hello everyone, Franklin Habit here. Glad to welcome you back once again to my apartment and specifically to my living room. And yes, I know I said at the end of the last episode that this time, darn it, will be in the workroom, and we're not. We're in the living room because, well, there have been leaps forward in terms of my unpacking and my organizing, but the workroom is still not quite ready for public consumption. I mean, it's better than it was, believe me, but it's still a little bit too crowded with tottering piles of things in there for me to film comfortably. So here we are once again in the living room, which my Parisian friends do continue to insist is actually the salon, or because of the books that you see on the shelves behind me, which I am delighted to say are now organized. My Parisian friends say that I also might like to call it the bibliothèque, or my library. I think I could warm up to that a little more. I've always liked the idea of having my own library. Well, I do have my own library in a sense. These are some of the books, not all of the books, not by any means even half of the books, but the very exciting thing about these books that you see behind me, they're organized. That's part of my great leap forward toward being settled into this apartment. I've got all the books out. I've got all the books organized. They are on shelves according to category where they ought to be. I might shuffle things around a bit as I live here and decide what I really want to have where, but for the moment I can say the books are settled. And if you are a bookish type person, you will know how comforting it is, how much more you begin to feel at home once you know where your books are. So I've got the books settled in. I am awaiting the arrival of the couch for this room. Getting a couch is, it's a bit of a trick here right now, which I think getting a couch is kind of a trick everywhere right now. And the workroom, it's about 3/4 there. And in general, the apartment is starting to look less like a construction site or cardboard box factory, and much more like home. So to that end, this week I do want to share a little bit of video of what moving in day was like here. Now, that's not my arrival day. I arrived in, of course, early September, and in fact, just a few days ago, it was 2 months since I got here. But it took about a month and a half, almost to the day, for my things to arrive that had to be sent over via ship. Now, by my things, of course, I mean books and lots of yarn, and also things like my spinning wheel, which you see behind me, and not least my doll's house. If you're rather new here, you might not have heard about Fox and Box. I'll put the website address up for that project. It's the next book that I am currently working on. And Fox and Box is about a dollhouse, and that dollhouse, its occupants and all of its contents had to come over by ship as well. And I will tell you that although I wouldn't describe any of the process as being especially fun, even though my relocation company, and a shout out, by the way, to Rainier Overseas Movers, you were absolutely aces with the whole process. I'll put a link to them down below. Even though they were a marvelous company, moving internationally it's not fun. It's not something that you really want to do for fun. Not the part where you physically sort through, organize, pack up, and send off all your goods. That part is not fun. But the departure of all of my things in Chicago was, as it turns out, the easy part. The crossing the ocean was easy compared to the arrival process, because let me tell you a little bit about this apartment. This apartment is in a late 18th century building. I haven't got exact dates, but we're looking at something just before the Revolution, most likely. And So this building is quite old, with an 18th century exterior and a largely 19th century, early 19th century interior. And my particular apartment faces into the courtyard. This is very desirable in my neighborhood because I have light and air, but I do not have street noise, which is rather lovely. Now, the difficulty, however, when you wish to move into a building like this, if you are bringing more than a suitcase with you, is how are you going to get things into the apartment? Your things are outside. You need to get them inside. How are you going to do that? Now, this is complicated by a few things. The courtyard is accessed through the old coach gate, which is narrow and not particularly tall. So large doors open up to clear the archway for a carriage is what they had in mind, not for a moving truck, even a small moving truck. And once you are into the courtyard itself is very narrow. And the courtyard is full of things already, like people's parked bicycles and an absolute forest of beautiful, large, potted plants grown by the gardienne of the building, who is not someone whose plants you wish to disturb. I'm sure I'll be talking about the gardienne quite a bit in this series now that I live here. She's wonderful. She is also formidable. Let's just say you don't mess with her. She's the kind of person you want in charge of your building. She keeps everyone in line, but that includes you. And you don't mess with her plants in the courtyard. So you have this narrow courtyard, and then sort of the cherry on top of this, oh, how the hell are we going to move things Sunday, is that my apartment is on the 4th floor. Now, the way that Europeans count, it's only the 3rd floor, but that doesn't really change the fact that you got to go up 4 flights of not just stairs, but 18th century Parisian stairs. They are narrow and they twist. They twist and they turn. There are no landings really on this staircase. It just goes round and around and around and around, and every so often as you go up the spiral you reach a front door. But they are steep and they are narrow. So how was I supposed to get all of my stuff up the stairs? All those boxes of books, the spinning wheel, the doll's house, my floor loom, all my stash. How were these things supposed to get in? Well, on the day, in spite of the fact that my hands were shaking and my brain felt like it was on fire, I managed to get some video footage, and I'd like to share it with you for your amusement. You can feel free to laugh. I can laugh now too. The pain is beginning. The pain is beginning to fade. It's not completely gone yet, but well, anyway, let's roll the video. The day began with the arrival of the portable elevator, which you see here. Yep, portable elevator. A tiny little truck that backed in through the porte cochere, past all of the gardienne's plants, between the bicycles and the building. I don't have any footage of the arrival because my hands were shaking so badly that I would have dropped the camera. But once he had got the little portable lift truck to the back of the courtyard, as you can see here, the driver and operator rotated the elevator shaft and then extended it so that it reached up to my kitchen window. This was fascinating to watch, but also terrifying because, of course, I had visions of this building, which survived the revolution and a couple of world wars and several occupations of Paris by hostile powers, suddenly being smashed to bits by my portable elevator so that I could get my books upstairs. Then he jacked up the truck and adjusted the tire pressure to get the angle exactly right. So there we were, with the portable elevator neatly installed in the courtyard, not having destroyed the concierge's plants or knocked down the buildings on either side, and all we could do was wait. The word was that the truck with all of my things in it was on the way, and meanwhile, I decided to have a look at this setup from above, and, well, one word: steep. very steep. And they tested the elevator while we waited. That was exciting to see. But then, my things were here, but the truck could not find a place to park. So the wonderful, wonderful moving crew formed a fireman chain from the street, which was clogged with honking, angry drivers, and moved all of my things off the truck and into the porte cochere. So, well, I was at least a little closer to the goal of having all the things into the apartment. But that turned out to be the hardest part. Once the boxes were off the truck, you could put lots and lots of them into the elevator all at once. They went smoothly up to the kitchen window and then were handed in by a member of the crew and then distributed around the apartment. The only person who really hated this part was poor little Mimi.
Now all I have to do is unpack.
And I did. I did get everything unpacked. And it has been on during the moments when it hasn't been terrible, the moments when I haven't felt sure that I was about to die from cardboard poisoning. It has been fun to unpack and to set up the new space. And one of the loveliest things, one of the ways that I know that I am getting back to being myself again, or possibly even a better version of myself, is that I'm knitting again as well. I am not just knitting plain old straightforward things like this sock. I have got everything ready to re-begin a sweater that you all saw me working on back when I was in Chicago, and that in the turmoil of the move went kerflooey and had to be restarted. Well, it has been restarted. And also, I, instead of being my usual scatterbrained self and starting a million new things, I find myself finishing. In fact, perhaps, maybe, you've noticed that I'm not wearing a workroom hoodie or apron this time. I'm actually wearing a piece of knitting. Boy, that feels good. This vest is one of the things that I actually had sent ahead. I made this vest, or some people would have me call it a knitted waistcoat or a sleeveless sweater. I don't care what you call it. You can see what it is. And I'll throw in some full-length shots and stuff like that. But let me tell you about this sweater. This sweater was largely improvised. It's done in stranded color work. And I bought the yarn for it, which is BC Garn Bio Shetland, or Bio Shetland, depending on where you are. The pronunciation of these things will change. I bought it actually here in Paris on one of my visits to Paris. I fell in love with the yarn at my fave shop, my neighborhood shop, Les Tricoteurs Volants, and I didn't have a pattern in mind. I just knew that I really, 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 really wanted to do a color work project, and that I really thought that perhaps I could use another sleeveless sweater, something I could wear under a sport coat. And since I didn't have a pattern in mind, I went a little hog wild and I just bought a bunch of colors. And I took that bunch of colors with me and said, I will sort you out later. I will figure out later on, when I'm back in the United States sitting down, what exactly it is I want to do with you. So I swatched quite a bit and I refreshed my memory of the method for making a bottom-up sweater vest in stranded color work with steeks. Those are cut openings for the front and the armholes. And in doing that, by the way, I'd love to give you my source. Deeply, deeply, deeply assisted by Meg Swansen's Fair Isle Vest instructional DVD. This is from Schoolhouse Press, Meg's company, founded by her mother, Elizabeth Zimmerman. And I have loved this DVD forever for its clarity, for its for Meg's wonderful way of explaining things so bit by bit so that they make sense, and also for it being so useful for someone like me who just isn't a standard size. I am not a standard size, nor am I a standard shape. And Meg's video is very much about finding your gauge and then using the proportions of your body and the measurements of your body in order to make a vest that fits you. And I really, really love also the fine attention to certain details like the shoulders. The shoulders on this vest are not seamed, they are grafted, which means that the knitting, the pattern, the colors continue right over the shoulder seamlessly and without interruption, which I really like. So that's my hearty recommendation. If you want to make something like this, the pattern isn't published, and I'm not going to publish a pattern. There's no real pattern for this. Purely a personal piece. But if you are looking at this and getting the urge to think you might like to make something like that, check out Meg's video. I'll put a link down in the comments. Highly, highly recommend. I'm a big Schoolhouse Press fan myself anyhow, and if you are a knitter and you are asking yourself, what Schoolhouse Press? You should know who they are. Seriously. Follow my link down below. Take a look at what you see. I think you'll be happy that you did. They're not sponsoring this video. I just love them with all my whole heart. So I'm really happy to have this finished, and there are some other things I'm going to be finishing too. I got the linen stitch scarf that I knit for, I don't know, like a dozen of the earliest episodes of this vlog. It is off the needles, and it is due for a wet blocking, and I'm going to wet block it alongside, well, not alongside, but let's say in tandem with another scarf that is badly in need of wet finishing, but that scarf is woven. And so in an upcoming episode, I will show you the process of how I will go about wet finishing the knitted piece and also wet finishing the woven piece. Because if you've never wet finished a woven piece, it's fun. It's really fun. I kind of have this dream that every knitter will try weaving at least once and see if they like it, because weaving is fun stuff. Weaving opens up new vistas, both for you as a creator and for your yarn stash. And boy, it melts your stash away, weaving does, which means that then you can run out and fill the vacuum by buying more yarn and not even feeling at all guilty about it, because, you have space. There's space. Wherever you keep your stash, there's actual space. Nature abhors the vacuum. That's why I'm probably going to go out book shopping after I finish recording this, because you might have noticed that the bookshelves behind me are, they're not full. They're not full. I actually need bookends right now. I don't think I've ever needed bookends in my whole life. And I don't know, I'm just kind of uneasy having a bookshelf with lots of extra space in it. So I have to go out and see what I can do about that. So that means that I am down to the last thing on my list to share with you today. Please don't tune out yet, because it is about my return to the United States. Now, it is only a temporary return, but I am very excited that I will be coming back to the United States in late February and early March to teach at 2 in-person live shows. And not just any 2, but 2 of my absolute favorites. I'll be on the west coast of the United States, in Washington State, Tacoma specifically, and in Sacramento, California. In Washington State, in Tacoma, I will be teaching at the Red Alder Fiber Arts Retreat. And that is sort of the spiritual successor to one of the best fiber shows that ever existed, which was called the Madrona Fiber Arts Winter Retreat. Red Alder stepped in when the chief organizer of Madrona, decided it was time for her to retire and for the show to retire as well. And Red Alder has the same spirit, but with a lot of new ideas, a lot of fresh air also being let in. So it's very exciting. And the first Red Alder was a roaring success, but it was also immediately before COVID. So this will be the second Red Alder Festival. after a year's absence due to COVID. I am very excited that the show is back. And then the other show, and how lovely and poetic, the other show will be one of the best knitting shows on the planet, and that is Stitches West in California. And this year, Stitches West is in Sacramento, California, it's a new venue, which is exciting. It's good to shake things up every so often. And Stitches West, where I have taught for years, was my last fiber show before COVID hit, closed everything down, and it really changed the way that I work. I have missed being in classrooms. I have missed the students. I have missed my colleagues on the International Knitting Teaching Circuit. And so I will put links down below for information about both of those shows, and recommend that you check them out. If you are in those areas or can get to those areas, see if you can drop in, because both shows are very, very much worth your while, to put it mildly. And also, oh boy, the idea of things maybe getting a little bit back to the point where we can really gather together again. Oh, it just makes me so happy. Makes me so happy. So I do look forward to our next virtual get-together. I'm going to do a couple more rounds here, and then I really do think I'm going to go out and treat myself to a new book somewhere. And until I see you again, which I hope will be very soon, I hope that you love whatever it is that you're making. Be good to yourself, take care of yourself, and be good to others as well. Bye-bye. Hey, it's Franklin. Thanks for watching my video, and thanks for sticking around for the end part here, where I do the standard YouTube things like say, please like, subscribe, and share. There, I said it, so that should satisfy the YouTube algorithm. And hey, if you really liked what you saw, why not step over to my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/FranklinHabit to see what that's about. I love my patrons. They make my work possible. And in exchange for their support, they hear from me weekly, often several times a week. We have live streams from my workroom, video exclusives and sneak peeks, downloadable goodies of all kinds, and even free knitting patterns. And now, as the finale, I shall perform the beloved English musical classic, When I Take My Morning Promenade. Alrighty. And a 1, and a 2, and a maestro, hit it! Oh!